When I was a child, I had a hero. His name was Muhammad Ali. As a child, Muhammad Ali boasted that he could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali, he called himself the greatest. He would say about himself, "I am the greatest of all time." And I believed him. And he was the greatest. About a year ago, ESPN did a very special series called The 50 Greatest Athletes of the 20th Century. And there were lots of names on that list. And guess who was on that list? Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad didn't win. A guy by the name of MJ won as the greatest athlete of the 20th century. MJ, you know MJ. As a matter of fact, I think that MJ would win the greatest athlete of all time. You know, Magic Johnson? No, that wasn't him. Michael Jordan, the greatest athlete of all. No, you know, I don't think that's the greatest athlete of all time. I think the MJ that's the greatest athlete of all time is MJ Messiah Jesus. The greatest of all time. I get into this greatness thing because, like the disciples, the ones who followed Jesus, those men that he selected and said, "Follow me," you know, they would get into arguments at times. And one of their arguments was, who's the greatest? And I'm sure one said Muhammad Ali, and another one said Michael Jordan, and one said, "No, I am." And they were going on, and another one probably said, Messiah Jesus. He's got to be the greatest. But they would argue. And Jesus heard their arguing. And the tax gatherer, Matthew, recorded an incident where he answered them in the midst of their question about greatness. And I'm sure he would answer it the same way if it was us in this room. Men, I know that you sometimes have thought to yourself, who's the greatest preacher? Is it Billy Graham? Is it Tony Evans? No, it's Robert Schuller. Could it be me? Could I mean, we think about it. You know, why does he have a church of 5,000 and I have a church of 50? Why do everybody love him? Why do they love him? And it seems like everybody hates me. How do I get to be great? How do I get to be great for God? Well, this Messiah Jesus, who I believe is the greatest of all time, he encountered such an issue with his disciples in Matthew chapter 18. I want to read a little bit of it for you, beginning at verse 1. As Matthew gives the account, it says, "At that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, 'Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?' He called a little child and had him stand among them. And he said, 'I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like this little child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven.'" We adults, we are satisfied by the wrong things, I think. We're satisfied by our vocational status. I'm a preacher among preachers. I'm the preacher of preach. I'm a bad mamma jamma. I can talk. My voice sounds like this. I move. I groove. Everybody loves me. I get satisfaction out of what I do, out of what I have, my cars, my house. I get comfort in my status in society. People look up to me. I'm all into that. Many adults are into that. My job, my car, the money in the bank, whatever it is. But Jesus said to his followers, unless you become, opposite of that, like a child and humble yourselves, you can't be the greatest. You have to be humble. You have to have humility. You have to be able to admit that you can be wrong, that you're not all together, that you don't have all that. You have to come humble and become humble. What he means here is that we need to become childlike in our attitude. If we want to be great, we simply need to be childlike. A child is honest and truthful. Adults, we lie to get ahead. A child is open. Adults are closed, cool, secretive, deceptive. A child is eager to learn. An adult, everybody should listen to me. I know it all. A child is trusting of God. A child is trusting of others. And we know adults tend to depend on self and trust no one else. That's not humility. You see, if you want to be great in God's kingdom, you have to be humble like a child, like Jesus was. The greatest of all times was so humble that he, in all of his majesty and glory, the great God, became a man, became a human, and humbled himself to be what he created. And he died like a man, but he rose like a God. He was that great because he humbled himself. He was able to come up and rise in glory, in majesty. Somewhere in my Bible it says that this same Messiah Jesus will have the entire universe get on their knees and bow and say, "You are Lord." Messiah Jesus, MJ, you the man. You're Lord. What about us? Are we having problems with our greatness because we're having problems being humble? How many of us have gone back to become childlike? Gone back with Jesus to become like a child so that we might be great? An unknown author wrote a father's prayer. They go something like this. Last night, my little boy confessed to me some childish wrong, and kneeling at my knee, he prayed with tears, "Dear God, make me a man like Daddy, wise and strong." Then while he slept, I knelt beside my boy's bed. I confessed my sins and I prayed with a low bowed head. "Oh God, make me like my child here, pure, open, trusting, with faith, sincere." Let that be our prayer, so that we might be